10, 9, ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff. 32 minutes past the hour. Liftoff on Apollo 11. Tower cleared.
We got a roll program. Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed. That's one small step for man. One giant leap for mankind.
After World War II drew to a close in the mid-20th century, a new conflict began, known as the Cold War. This battle pitted the world's two great powers, democratic capitalist United States and the communist Soviet Union, against each other. As tensions grow, both powers needed to flex their might in order to grow influence. However, both were scared of starting nuclear warfare, so they took to space. Each side sought to prove its superiority of its technology and its military power. On October 4th, 1957, the USSR launches Sputnik, the first man-made technology to orbit the Earth. On November 3rd, 1957, the USSR launches a dog into space, which dies shortly after takeoff from overheating and panic. January 31st, 1958, the U.S. launches their first satellite, the Explorer. This was the first U.S. satellite to carry science instruments. The satellite was launched from Cape Canaveral, Florida, and followed a looping flight path that orbited the Earth once every 114 minutes.
In response to the Explorer 1, the Russians on April 12, 1961, sent up Yuri Gagarin, who orbits the Earth once and becomes the first man in space. May 5th, 1961, Alan Shepard rode Freedom 7 to become the first American in space. On May 25th, 1961, President John F. Kennedy addresses Congress by challenging the nation to put a man on the moon by the end of the decade.
On July 16th, 1969, Apollo 11 launches from Cape Canaveral with Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, and Lieutenant Colonel Michael Collins on board.
On July 20th, 1969, Armstrong and Aldrin became the first men to walk on the moon, while Collins remains in lunar orbit, in command of the surface module.
Because of this history and all of the other evidence we have seen, we believe the moon landing is real, and we will now prove popular conspiracy theories wrong in order to prove our opinion's legitimacy.
First conspiracy we have is the Van Allen radiation belts. A lot of people ask why any of the astronauts weren't hit by radiated particles or anything, and most people don't believe that they could have made it all the way to the moon without being affected by the radiation.
Though this is only energetic charged particles, most of which originate from the solar wind, that are captured by and held around the planet by the planet's magnetic field. The Earth has two such belts, and sometimes others may be temporarily created. Why were the astronauts fried when they were exposed to radiation? No solar particle events occurred during the moon mission. This is why the crew did not suffer from radiation exposure while in space. NASA placed many radiation detection equipment on board were meant to detect and help minimize the amount of radiation that the crew was exposed to during the mission.
The next theory we have is that the photograph film should not have been able to survive without melting at the moon's temperature, which can rise up to 280 degrees on the surface, where film melts at 150 degrees.
Was placed in protective casing which protected it from the moon's hot extreme temperatures. It could survive temperatures of up to 280 degrees Celsius and also minus 65 degrees Celsius.
The next theory we have is that the flag was flapping once it was planted in the moon's soil, and the moon's atmosphere should not allow for any wind. There's no wind in a vacuum.
Is that the flag isn't flapping. If you look closely at the GIF to the left, the flag is in the same position between the two frames as the astronaut moves. There's a horizontal rod projecting from the post at the top of the pole to hold the flag unfurled. The flag was disturbed as it was planted into the ground and kept this bed shape because of the lack of strong gravity on the moon.
In most of the photographs, there's no stars at all in the sky, where on the moon you would be able to see millions and millions of stars.
A common feature of photographs from space where the contrast between light and dark is extreme. The surface of the moon reflects strong sunlight and appears very bright in photographs. This brightness drowns out the relatively dim light from stars in the dark sky, akin to how car headlights can reflect out the fainter light from nearby objects. The human eye can adjust and pick out the stars, but unless it's set to the right settings, the camera struggles with contrast. Astronauts on the International Space Station today regularly take photographs of the Earth that show a completely starless background, but it's the same problem with contrast at work.
One other argument is of the non-parallel shadows that are cast in the photographs. Why would there be different sources of light on the moon unless it was filmed in a studio?
Uneven surface can cause all sorts of shadows at different angles. Even with a single light source like the sun, the combination of the moon's rough surface and the long shadows from the sun, you're gonna have to fix that when we try again. Alright. Actually, a rough, uneven surface can cause all sorts of shadows at different angles, even with a single light source like the sun. The combination of the moon's rough surface and the long shadows from a sun low in the sky can easily create complicated shadows. The funny shadow in the picture above is likely created by an uneven ridge that extends towards astronauts in a low angle sun.
One and final, or no, redo it, sorry. Fuck that up right off the gate.
3, 2, 1.
Another theory there is the infamous labeled rock. And this rock in one of the photos has a C on it. And a lot of movie sets and television sets, props were numbered and lettered. And that is the cause for the big conspiracy theory.
Simply isn't there. The image of the rock is taken from a much larger shot of the moon's surface. And if you look at the original image, the marking isn't there. Either a small hair or a piece of thread must have got caught in the machine while it was being copied. Evidence today that proves to us that the moon landing was real. The camera on Selene didn't have the resolution to capture individual rocks, but the two images are obviously the same terrain and the same scenery. From lunar missions separated by 37 years and directed by space agencies from two different countries. So much. Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter, which has been in orbit around the moon since 2009, and it has captured recent photographs of all the Apollo landing sites. These images show the Apollo spacecraft in exactly the right locations, and amazingly, you can even see the astronauts' footsteps as they explore the lunar hull.
So what were your thoughts on the moon landing before this project?
So I always thought and I always assumed that it was correct and that we actually landed on the moon. But there were always doubts in my mind, like, did we actually do it? Is this something that America actually achieved? And in working on this project, I can see now that there's no possible way that we could have faked it. And with the technology we had, we could have easily accomplished landing on the moon.
Personally, after doing this project, I don't think the moon landing was real. Evidence like the rock prop and the film not being able to survive at that heat of the moon definitely made me think that the moon landing could have been faked, filmed on a movie set.
Has doing this project in any way changed your opinion on any of the conspiracy theories you believed before?
I kind of already was suspicious of the whole moon landing thing, and definitely going into depth, I saw some more things that kept my suspicions sharp.
Was there anything that you believed previously but now you realize that you were wrong about? Like specifically in like the Allen Belt theory or anything like that?
The Allen Belt theory, I can definitely see how that's not a good conspiracy theory because a lot of times those radiation belts don't all happen at different places, and they had some pretty capable radiation sensors in their equipment.
Project. Did you believe the moon landing was real?
Yeah, I believe it was real.
And after the project, are you still feeling the same way? Are there any?
Yeah, I still believe it was there. There was too much evidence to show that we did do it, and not enough saying that it was a fake. Too many contrasting that overweighs people that say it was a hoax or we didn't go. evidence on one side that outweighs the other, there are some really suspect things when you actually look at the footage